Hello, and welcome to the Resource Nexus podcast. I'm your host, the Elevated Rim. Today we're diving into the mock transfer portal, a magical place where dreams are made, or maybe just transferred. Let's talk about the shift. Mid-majors are increasingly becoming the losers in this game. I've noticed a stark difference in the quality of transfers they're landing compared to just 3 years ago, back when this very podcast first hit the airwaves. It's like the Amish quietly farming the next crop of players for the Power 5 teams. The big money programs come in, consolidate all the talent, and poof, the parity we all root for takes a hit. Tough break if you're a fan of the underdog story or a have-not program. But let's give credit where it's due. Mid-majors aren't just rolling over. They're doing an impressive job finding lesser proven talents, players who didn't get much shine at Power 5s or even further down the food chain. Oh, and here's a wild twist. We've seen a spike in Division II players making the leap, a solid 30% increase this past year alone. That's some serious movement from the underdogs. So the mock coaching carousel pod did better than I expected. Naturally, I'm going back to the well, this time with a mock portal episode, plus it's just fun. Again, this is not serious, but more a fun exercise with the best guesstimates. We'll speculate on which players might enter the transfer portal this offseason and possible landing spots. Some of these predictions will seem obvious, almost inevitable, given how certain mid-major players have performed at elite levels and the money that's now available to lure them to higher levels. Also, some likely wanted to play at these levels but didn't have the opportunity. Well, now they will. As we all know, the portal is unpredictable. We're bound to see some wild cards, like Hunter Dickinson level unexpected transfers too. Guys that are in places and roles you wouldn't expect to even want to move. This is all about educated guesses based on trends and variables, and I'll try to match players with schools that make sense. Why might a player hit the portal? Money. This one is obvious now. Frustration with their minutes or role. They are at a mid-major or lower power conference teams, struggling to keep players because they just can't match the NIL offers higher up the food chain. A breakout season where the player outgrows their current program and wants the better opportunity even without the money. Potential coaching changes, or even schools and coaches with reputations for NIL support or coach being harder to play for. And let's not forget, some players simply have the transfer bug. I had a friend who grew up in a military family, moving constantly. He told me once that staying in one place felt strange to him, and you see it with players who've been on multiple AAU or high school teams, naturally bounce colleges, I believe. There has to be a correlation, and if you've moved once, you are more likely to move again. It seems these players are rarely satisfied. These are the low-hanging fruit we're focusing on today, players with obvious variables pointing toward a potential move. Now, while projecting who might enter the portal is challenging, that may be doable. Predicting where they'll land, that's like trying to hit a half-court shot blindfolded. Still, we'll take a stab at it, at least giving a sense of the level or range we think these players might jump to, at least where we think they should. Let's dive into the first wave of players who could shake up the college basketball landscape. 1. Yaxel Lindeborg, UAB, somehow convinced Yaxel to stay last year, but with the JUCO ruling giving players eligibility back, he's going to be a hot commodity. Picture this, Kansas snagging one of the best bigs on the market to replace Dickinson. Makes sense, right? Yeah, I think he's going to be that sought out after of the likely movers. I would find it hard to believe UAB could retain him a second year, but it's at least hopeful he stayed once. The AAC is picked over year after year as the first stop outside the Power 5, and he's likely the best player, averaging 16 and 10 with about a 30 PER. Good luck with that. 2. Tyler Bilodeau, UCLA. When you've transferred once and your coach publicly calls you soft, yeah, that's a red flag. I had him top 60 in my preseason player rankings when other had him in the 600s. Bilodeau is underrated and unappreciated by fans, and it seems even his coach, who he's helped turn his program around, I've got a feeling he'll end up on the West Coast again, Arizona perhaps. Something about that just fits. 3. AJ Storr, Kansas. Rough year, sure, but he's shown he can thrive in a power conference with the right role. High usage scorer, not much else, so he'll need to pick better this time to find the perfect spot to get his shots. Going back to Wisconsin would make sense, but they probably moved on and replaced him well. Houston always puts enough defense around a chucker that they would be the most ideal. I still think he's good enough to land at a top 40 team and lead them in scoring. He's moving somewhere for sure. Fourth school, here we come. 4. Vin Allen Lubin, North Carolina. This guy's already on his third Power 5 team. 5. Kanye Clary, Mississippi State, completely buried at State. It's a no-brainer for him to move. I'm thinking a Memphis-type school or a lower-tier Power 5 like back at Penn State or Seton Hall would give him the role he's looking for. It's Doug McDaniel, Kansas State. It's just not clicking at K-State for Doug. He's dug a hole everywhere, it seems, so coaches might be less inclined to roster him. Honestly, I don't have a strong feel for where he'll go, but the Big East or somewhere on the East Coast feels right. Penn State likely would be desperate enough to replace Ace Baldwin. They would target him. 7. Jordan Pope, Texas. Jordan started slow but has really turned things around. This one hinges on a potential coaching change. If Texas keeps their coach, Pope likely stays. If not, all bets are off. He's also playing well enough a new coach might prioritize keeping him as well. I could see a Houston try to lure him to replace Cryer. 8. Rylan Griffin. He's a proven high-level player, though. Could he boomerang back to Alabama? They've got rebuilding to do post-Sears, and this return to your old school where it was a good partnership does happen. That said, Alabama needs him less than he needs them. Oscar Clough, South Dakota State. Clough's rise doesn't shock me. He was 245th in our preseason rankings. He's gone from a 20-minute starter at Washington State to a Summit League standout. But why is he in South Dakota? Like a lot of teams missed on that one. He was basically Daniel Bacho from the year before with almost identical stats at a P5 moving down to dominate. He was a solid P5 player, so he'll probably be a solid one again now that he gets back his JUCO years. He should be a hot commodity as he's improved, and Stanford replacing Maxime Reynaud and back with his old coach would be the obvious first look, or maybe Creighton taking over for Ryan Kalkbrenner. The options are endless. UNC fans want him, and with a guy seemingly going to South Dakota, it seems he could end up anywhere. 10. Sincere Parker, McNee's efficiency king for a guard. Parker was incredible at St. Louis with guard numbers like I've never seen before, albeit in a short sample. He's not hitting those same marks, but he's mostly back it up this year that he's for real and is pretty criminally underrated. With Wade likely heading to a P5 school and him getting his JUCO years back, Parker could follow Miami, FSU, Virginia, take your pick. The only thing that gives me pause is he doesn't really play Parker 30 minutes like he should. Maybe another coach swoops in and offers him a bigger role. 11. Nigel Pack, Miami. There's a reason Nigel hit pause after 9 games to preserve that eligibility. If he gets the year back, he'll be one of the most sought-after guards on the market. When I first started doing this after his year at Kansas State, he was statistically one of the best guards in the country. So that ceiling is in there somewhere. Maybe it was a fluke, but my philosophy is if you've shown me the ceiling, I will believe it's possible to get back there. But he's put many years between that year and now that weren't that level since. Pack is from Wisconsin, so maybe, but he might have been spoiled in Miami. 12. Donovan Dent, New Mexico. Dent's done just about everything he can in the Mountain West. It feels like he's ready for a Power 5 opportunity. Don't be surprised if he follows Richard Pitino to a better gig, Miami or FSU maybe. 13. Obi Ogbem, Wyoming. Agbem's an elite, highly productive three-point sniper who could fit anywhere. Probably wants to be anywhere but Wyoming. Gonzaga feels like a perfect fit following Graham Ike, or maybe he stays closer to home, being from Colorado. 14. Isaiah Coleman, Seton Hall. Seton Hall's been losing players left and right, and Coleman could be next. A talent like him could find his way to a program like UConn or another contender. Sorry, Seton Hall fans, it's tough out here. A proven P5 talent at a school that has a hard time retaining them likely will have tons of interest unless Seton Hall steps up and pays him. 15. Reed Bailey, Davidson. A 6'11" player who can stretch the floor. He's going to have a market, likely at a lower end Power 5 like DePaul or a program similar to Skogman's move last year. 16. LaJay Jones, St. Bonaventure. He's a 6'7" forward shooting 50% from 3 on decent volume. Yeah, exactly. Someone higher up the food chain is going to take notice. Keep an eye on him. 17. Mason Falslev, Utah State. Falslev stuck around through a coaching change last year and is now putting up much better numbers, averaging 16 points a game for a big-time winning mid-major. They kept him once through a change when he was pretty good, but Utah State lost most of their team the last couple times as well, with the top players following Odom and Sprinkle. If Calhoun takes another job, expect Mason to follow. Penn State seems like a logical landing spot. 18. Boopy Miller, SMU, already been to 3 schools, and his minutes are down from the previous stops, even as his production is as good or better. Translation, he's probably looking for greener or richer pastures. He could boomerang back to Wake Forest, but this feels like a Kansas type of guy to replace Harris. The money always seems right there. 19. Johnny Kinziger, Illinois State. At just 5'11", Kinziger's small but really good. An elite 41% high-volume three-point shooter with some passing chops. He'd fit at a lower-end Power 5 like Northwestern or a solid mid-major with money like Wichita State. Don't underestimate this guy. His size might fool you and cause some to overlook him, but his talent seems legit. 20. Bobby Durkin, Davidson shooting 44% from 3. As a 6'7" player in the A-10, he's the kind of talent that could fit almost anywhere. Illinois, Wake Forest, maybe even UNC. There's probably a long line forming for this one. 21. Jackson Money, North Dakota State. A 6'10", 235-pound sharpshooter who hits 44% from 3 and dishes out 4 assists per game. He's not likely NBA bound in my opinion, but will be highly paid by a mid-level Power 5 school. Kansas State seems like a natural fit. They love to overpay players like this. 22. Rasheer Fleming, St. Joseph's. Fleming is a 6'9" A-10 standout, putting up 16 points and 9 rebounds while shooting 44% from deep. His production at this level ensures he'll have plenty of suitors. Big East programs like St. John's feel like a great match. 23. Didon Thomas Jr. UNLV. Thomas stayed loyal to UNLV last season while putting up 16 points per game on 40% three-point shooting. He's a Las Vegas native, so his roots might keep him there, but don't rule out top West Coast schools like Arizona or UCLA if he enters the portal. 24. Acor, Kansas State. With limited playing time at K-State, Acor has proven he can compete at this level. A mid-major like Memphis or Wichita State or even a lower-end ACC school that can offer more minutes would be a smart move for him. He has to be frustrated with his role and minutes even at Samford. He's way too productive to play this few minutes, and role should be his biggest ask. He's good enough someone should make a promise that he gets at least 25 minutes a game. 25. Aiden Mahaney, UConn. Things haven't worked out for Mahaney at UConn, and he's been unplayable at I suspect he may look for a bigger role elsewhere. I doubt he likes that role, and UConn can certainly do better with the roster spot. A return to St. Mary's could be on the table, but that bridge might be burned. He was highly overrated there, and I think he needs them more than they need him. Wherever he goes, it feels like UConn and Mahaney could both benefit from a fresh start. 26. Baba Miller, FAU. Miller's reputation outweighs his production, but his unique skill set, blocking shots and hitting some threes, keeps him intriguing at his size. Expect several programs to line up for that upside, though his output might not justify the hype. 27. Rytis Petraitis. Cal left the military at Air Force to pursue Power Conference basketball, but may be overmatched in the ACC as an undersized big. A return to the Mountain West or West Coast Conference seems more his speed, and he would be a great get there. 28. Rubin Chinyelu, Florida. Florida's front court is too crowded for Chinyelu to shine. He's talented, but needs to find a team where he can secure significant minutes. Even at Washington State, he had Clough to split with. Having already played at Washington State and Florida, his next destination will likely hinge on fit rather than geography. He needs to really look at the other bigs on the team this time if he wants to actually see the court and show what he can do. Look at UNC brother, 29, Aaron Bradshaw, OSU. Bradshaw's former five-star pedigree ensures he'll attract attention from elite schools even if his stats don't match the hype. He's more of a reputation pick than a production one, but that's enough to keep him in demand and overrated on these ranking lists. I could see a UNC or Texas taking him. 30. Jalen Jackson, Purdue, Fort Wayne. While the competition he faces isn't the strongest, Jackson's numbers are hard to ignore, and 60% true shooting as a guard while averaging 20 points per game. He's ready to move up, and Louisville feels like a natural type of fit. 31. Kenny Poto, UC Santa Barbara. Poto, a highly productive big, has regained his JUCO eligibility. Expect a Power 5 interest, likely from a West Coast program like USC or Stanford. He's big and pretty skilled. 32. Caleb Banks, Tulane. The AAC has become a farm system for Power 5 schools, and Banks is no exception. Strong counting stats, he's too productive for Tulane to keep. Having started at Indiana, his pedigree makes him even more appealing, I suspect, for a rebound back to the P5. He didn't come from nowhere. 33. Eric Mulder, Purdue. Fort Wayne. DePaul has a habit of targeting top-tier mid-major talent, and Eric Mulder seems like a perfect fit. His counting stats won't jump off the page, but his efficiency is remarkable. For a have-not program looking for hidden gems, Mulder should be on the radar. 34. Kenyon Giles, UNC Greensboro. Kenyon Giles is putting up 17 points per game while shooting 45% from three, and he seems like a natural fit for VCU. That said, with his production, he might find an opportunity even bigger than the Rams. 35. Chase Walker, Memphis could be the next stop for Chase Walker, who fits their need for a physical post presence to replace Donja. At 300 pounds, Walker is a force inside, averaging 15 points, 6 rebounds, and boasting a 32 PER. He's the kind of productive big man who can thrive anywhere. 36. Blake Harper, Richmond. Looks like a great landing spot for Blake Harper as he climbs the ladder. With 19 points per game and 39% shooting from three, he's proven he can score. This move feels like the right level for him. 37. Dominique Daniels Jr. to San Diego State could use Daniels' creativity in their backcourt rotation. He's small, but the Aztecs have shown they can succeed with undersized guards, like the one from Seattle on their Final Four team. His shooting does need improvement, but the fit is promising. 38. Blaze Threat, Weber State. Blaze Threat seems ready to jump to the Pac-12, making Washington State an intriguing option. His scoring and playmaking would fit well in their system, likely as a replacement for Coward. 39. Dylan Darling, Idaho State. Nevada looks like a solid fit for Dylan Darling, who's been a standout playmaker with nearly 6 assists per game. He could thrive in their backcourt. 40. Nick Dorn. Davidson's offense seems tailor-made for Nick Dorn's sharpshooting. As the Wildcats deal with losses to bigger programs, Dorn's skills could slot in seamlessly. 41. Brian Moore Jr., Norfolk State, Wichita. State feels like the right spot for Brian Moore Jr. He's got impressive stats, 18 points per game, 45% from three, and solid size. While P5 might be ambitious, the Shockers provide a good balance of support and opportunity. 42. Shelton Williams Dryden, Belmont. Could be the next step for Shelton Williams Dryden, a freshman with room to grow. If he thrives there, he might even take another leap later in his career. 43. Barrington Hargris, UC Riverside. Santa Clara has been landing some impressive transfers lately, and Barrington Hargris could be next. He's not the most efficient scorer, but averaging 19 points a game makes him an appealing option for the Broncos. 44. Brandon Knoll, Wright State. Virginia Tech seems to have a type, and Brandon Knoll fits the mold. He's putting up 18 points and 8 rebounds while shooting 35% from three. His game is reminiscent of the last Wright State big to make the move to the Hokies. 45, Paul McMillan, Cincinnati, seems like a natural fit for Paul McMillan, 4. With 20 points per game, 34% from 3, and 83% from the free throw line, there's room for growth. His scoring and potential could be too good to pass up. 46, Jamel Jones, Cal State, Bakersfield. Fresno State looks like a great match for Jamel Jones. At 6'4", he's got a 25 PER, averages 17 points, and shoots 40% from 3. Stanford or Cal might be smart to take a look, but Jones feels like he might fly under the radar. 47, Joe Nugent, Holy Cross. Joe Nugent's elite shooting, 46% from 3, could make him an interesting pickup for Rutgers. While it's a big jump, the Scarlet Knights might be feeling the pressure to add more shooting, and Nugent could be their guy. 48, Mo Odom, Pepperdine. Gonzaga has a knack for developing talent, and Mo Odom could be next in line. With 7 assists per game and 40% shooting from 3, he's got the tools. Even his inefficiency mirrors Ryan Nembhard, making him a potential fit as his replacement. 49, Adam Clark. Temple might be willing to take a chance on Adam Clark despite his size. At 5'10", he's averaging 20 points and 5 assists, while shooting decently from 3. He's the kind of player who could thrive in the right system. 50, Bryce Lindsey. James Madison. Dayton seems like a strong landing spot for Bryce Lindsey. His 43% shooting from 3 will undoubtedly attract attention, and while he might not make it to a P5 program, the A10 or AAC feels just right. 51, Abdi Bashir Jr. Mamaston looks like a perfect fit for Abdi Bashir Jr. He's averaging 21 points and shooting 44% from 3, but with a PER of 19, his numbers might be a little misleading. Still, he's got the skill set to succeed with the Tigers. 52, Jakari Lane, North Alabama. Staying in state, Jakari Lane could provide a dynamic scoring boost to UAB's backcourt. He's a solid three-point shooter and would be a logical addition, especially since UAB has already taken a guard from this program before. 53, Michael Rataj, Oregon State. The in-state rivalry might get personal with Oregon projected to snag Michael Rataj from their little brother. The German forward is averaging 16 points and 8 rebounds with a 25 PER and 35% shooting from 3. Oregon's deep pockets make this move seem inevitable. 54, Martin Somerville, UMass Lowell. Providence looks like a natural next step for Martin Somerville. At 6'3", he's shooting a blistering 46% from 3 on over 2 makes per game. That kind of efficiency translates anywhere, and the Friars would love his sharp shooting. 55, Brennan Lorient, North Texas. Brennan Lorient's two-way versatility makes him an excellent fit for Oklahoma State. The Big 12 is known for valuing players like him, and Lorient would bring the kind of defensive grit and offensive reliability they're looking for. 56, Dylan Faulkner, Lipscomb. A move to Belmont feels like a logical next step for Dylan Faulkner. Staying local, his size and post-scoring ability would thrive in Belmont's system, where skilled big men have historically found success. 57, Jaden Brownell, Samford. Jaden Brownell seems like a quintessential Vanderbilt guy, a productive shooting big who fits their mold. His shadow might limit his role. Vanderbilt stockpiles depth, and Brownell seems accustomed to making an impact in limited minutes. 58, Josh Harris, North Florida. Staying in state, Josh Harris could bolster Florida Atlantic's forward depth. At 6'8", he's averaging 14 points and 7 rebounds, though his skinny frame might be a concern. The AAC seems like the logical next step for his skill set. 59, Mr. Dean, USC Upstate, UNC Wilmington seems like the perfect fit for Mr. Dean. A tough-nosed player reminiscent of Trezarian White, Dean's physicality would be a great addition to a competitive CAA team. Transfers like him are often on their radar. 60, Gaitis Nemeiksa, Hawaii, the Lithuanian forward. Gaitis Nemeiksa could land at Cal, where stretch forwards with shooting ability are highly valued. averaging 14 points, 7 rebounds, and shooting 36% from 3, he'll attract both low-end P5 and high-end mid-major programs. Then again, maybe he loves the sun, but as a blonde from Lithuania, Hawaii might have been a bit too sunny for him. 61. Noah Amenhauser, Arizona, could be a great fit for Noah Amenhauser, a legit 7-footer who started at Grand Canyon. With averages of 11 points, 7 rebounds, and a 28 PER, he seems like the type of under-the-radar player Tommy Lloyd could turn into a gem. 62. Javonte Brown, Rhode Island. Javonte Brown looks poised to return to a high-major program, with Texas A&M being the perfect fit. Why is that? Well, he has been there before. His rim protection and physical presence make him a prototypical Aggie, and it's a logical reunion now that he's upped his game. 7-footer that's averaging 10 and 7 with a 25 PER in the A10 will likely have a lot of interest. Maybe even UConn would want him back as well. All right, that wraps up this episode of the Resource Nexus podcast. We've speculated, analyzed, and maybe even ruffled a few feathers, but that's what makes the transfer portal so fascinating. It's a game changer, not just for players and teams, but for fans like us who live for this kind of off-season drama. In some cases, more so than actually watching the games. The portal is a wild ride, and as unpredictable as it can be, it's also a reflection of where college sports are headed. Money, opportunity, and the freedom to choose. This is the new era. In many ways, it's like NBA free agency. If you got thoughts, predictions, or a player you think might hit the portal, hit me up. I'd love to hear your takes and maybe even revisit them in a future episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Resource Nexus podcast. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with your fellow Hoops fans and help a brother out. As always, check you later.
Cool. Guess we'll see you around.
All right, check you later.
Bye.
Wait, man, why are you always such a dork, man? What are you talking about? Check you later. Check you later.